Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah, Mercy and Lago, down to Biscayne, yeah, 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs, where here's the thing, you can check the score, hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs, down to Biscayne. Kept the floor playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
Welcome into the Ty Jerome contract renegotiation game. As the Miami Heat lose Game 1 to the Cleveland Cavaliers, 121-100, a game mostly marked by our Greg Sylvander being on playback and constantly saying they got it down to single digits, which they did until they didn't. The Heat lose by 21 in Cleveland. This is what happens with two teams with 27 games between them in the regular season. One team has a lot more talent than the other, but there are things that the Heat could have done differently and better today, so we will get into those. We are live on this. If you're listening to the postgame show, you're listening to it afterwards. Of course, you can catch it live on the postgame show, catch it live on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel after every game. We'll be here live after every single game. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick. And at 5 Reasons Sports, we got Greg Sylvander. You can follow me at Greg Sylvander, Brady Hawk 305, Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. We'll get to the player of the game, the play of the night, the defensive play of the night as well, or defending the house. But my overall thoughts on this, and then we'll go around the room here, is just they just have a lot of weapons. And we know that. We know that there was going to be a little bit of rust for them, although it didn't show early. But they got 34 points off their bench. 28 of them came from Ty Jerome tonight. If Ty Jerome's going to outplay Tyler Herro, no. They don't have a chance to win a game in this series, although I don't think that's going to happen in every game, but we'll get into Tyler's performance and some of the performances of the other players here. Greg, your overall thought after Game 1?
It's tough when you look at the final score because there was a large part of this game where the Heat played them competitively. I know people probably don't want to hear that when they just, you look at a 21-point loss on the road. The Cavalanche, as they like to call it in Cleveland, hit in the second half and in the fourth quarter. But there were a lot of parts of this game where it was in single digits, or they had it down to 6, had it down to 7, and they were kind of playing where if they had made a run, they could have made this thing interesting. But ultimately, this is what, just from you look statistically, it's somewhat just on the numbers. I don't know if I want to go too far here. It's kind of a historic Cleveland offense, and we saw a lot of what makes them difficult to guard tonight. Ty Jerome is probably not going to do what he did tonight every game, but they had issues with other guys. Garland, Tyler Herro struggled with some moments with him. Kel'el Ware did not do great on his possessions against Jared Allen. So there's a lot of stuff they got to clean up. These are two teams that I've said this from the beginning, Ethan. A 37-win team, to me, is not a playoff team. It just isn't. So by circumstance, you get into the playoffs because of the play-in. But a 37-win team probably shouldn't expect to go up into the house of a 1 seed and get very many victories. And this was just one of those games. You got to regroup for Game 2. But it's going to be a tough ask throughout this whole series.
All right, let me go through some of the Heat's numbers here, and then we'll get to the player of the night. Bam Adebayo, 10 of 22. You guys want him to shoot. 10 of 22, 24 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. Herro, 7 of 18, 21 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, but only had 4 points in the second half. He had 17 at halftime. Andrew Wiggins, I thought was too quiet. 14 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists on 11 shots. Kel'el Ware, I thought was bad. Not quiet. I thought he was bad. I want to talk about that a little bit because I thought he'd have to play more in this series, but if he's going to play like that, he's going to play less. 20 minutes, 2 points, 3 rebounds. Alec Burks started 6 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, was 2 of 3 from 3. Leading minute getter off the bench, Another strong statistical performance from Davion Mitchell. 8 of 12 from the floor, 2 of 3 from 3, 18 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists. We'll get into the starting decision there and whether or not we think it should change. Duncan had 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 of 5 from the field. Highsmith, 7 points, 6 rebounds, 3 of 4 from the field. Nobody else played significant minutes. Kyle Anderson played 6. Let's just roll the player of the night now. Might as well talk about it from the other side.
And now it's time for the A-Aggressive Insurance Player of the Night, sponsored by our friend Lynette. You can find her at insurancebylynette.com. That's with 2 N's and 2 T's, insurancebylynette.com. If you need car insurance, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, or any other type of insurance, she's the person to go to. Based in Lauderhill, she services the entire Tri-County area here in South Florida, and she will make sure to get you the best deal. She'll probably talk to you about the heat while you're at it. Reach out to her, insurancebylynette.com. And now, the player of the game.
Well, I know that the reaction here is going to be Ty Jerome because this was somewhat unexpected, although if you've watched him all year, it shouldn't have been. But Brady, there were really 3 guards that could have gotten this from the Cleveland side today, right?
For sure. I think I would give it to Ty Jerome just because, I mean, you're getting a given 30, it feels like, from Donovan in this point of the playoffs anyway. The swing player was Ty Jerome, but it's kind of a grouping between the 3 anyway, because the storyline of this game to me was the fact that they just couldn't contain the perimeter. They couldn't contain their guards. They just couldn't stay in front. They got all they wanted to in terms of mismatch hunting, that they got Tyler in every single action. They had Max as the primary screeners, what we talked about kind of heading into the series, that Max would do a lot of screening. It's even more than I thought. Like, they are overly putting Tyler in these actions, forcing him to be physical, forcing him to be engaged, not only for the defensive purposes of it, like not only like the fact that they could bully him in that way and get inside and find advantages, but also putting him in constant actions. Like, it tires him down on the offensive end. So now you're talking about a second half where he has 4 points and he hasn't really touched the ball a lot of possessions. It's because he's getting thrown around defensively every time down because they're putting him in every action. So it's smart on Cleveland's side that Miami's got to find ways to adjust. The one adjustment to it was, okay, let's go zone. That doesn't work against this team. Like, we talked about that heading in too. Like, they have too many good shooters. They just find ways to get it going. And that was honestly where Ty Jerome caught fire in the second half. They went to that zone on the inbound possession. Ty Jerome got a 3 out of it. He's just done so many things, counters to Miami's coverages. It's just a tough thing to figure out because Miami's playing a decent amount of defenders, but they're just finding ways to attack it. And if they help off the perimeter, there's not really those specific guys you can help off of, like in Chicago or Atlanta. Like, there's just too many good shooters. And if you help late around the rim, like they were at certain points, it's a lob to Jared Allen or it's a lob to Evan Mobley. So the Cavs have it down packed. They have their offense. It's why it's been so good this year. But Miami has to find ways to counter. I just think they have to do a much better job containing, not letting them get to the middle of the floor, get downhill, find those advantages. And I just don't know if that's an easy thing to come up with a counter for game 2.
The thing I take out of this stat line, Alex, the overall stat line for Cleveland is they got very little offensive production from Mobley and Allen. I mean, they had 21 points between them, although Allen killed them on the boards early. He had 7 rebounds in the first quarter.
A lot of easy ones, though.
Easy one. And they got no production off the bench from a couple of their wings. Hunter was scoreless in 16 minutes. Okoro was scoreless. Strus had 9 points as a starter. It really was the guards. I mean, it's Garland, it's Mitchell, it's Jerome, and is the solution? I mean, if you start Davion ended up playing, because we talk about Herro being put in the blender. Davion played 34 minutes, so he's playing a ton of minutes anyway.
Yeah.
Does it make a difference to start somebody else so at least you can take? Because Garland got off early too easily, as did Mitchell. But Mitchell's going to do that. But if Garland is also, and then you get Jerome, you have no chance.
Absolutely, it makes a difference. No, I'm not going to sit here and act like starting Davion is, gonna solve everything and they're gonna win the series. But absolutely, like all the stuff we've been talking about for years, it's like when it comes to small margin for error with this team, when it comes to them having to lean into defensive foundation, like things I've said on here a million times, like it's so much more important now. You don't have the guy who settles you down and gets you to the free throw line whenever you want, and the guy who got you to 2 finals. Like, for as much as I appreciate what they've got going on, like I just think it's just the margin for error is tiny. and they didn't play like they know that. They played like it was a regular season game. Like they were so sloppy in that first half, man. It was like, first of all, I don't understand. Like, there's so much to get to. So that my thoughts are a little bit scattered right now. But when it comes to Spo, I think I would be the most like questioning him and some of the stuff with the game plan tonight, because first of all, like not starting Davion is already one thing, right? But there wasn't like creative counters to it, right? Like they matched up Herro on Garland, and look, like I mentioned it on the last show, I think like Herro has become a better perimeter defender. Again, he's still not a good one. And that's even against like, I'm okay with him switching, onto Garland or Mitchell, like at some points throughout a game, like here and there, a couple of times. But him being the primary, them conceding the switch every time. And I know it's not every time, I'm exaggerating, but so much of the time. Like they tried to show and recover sometimes, and they were awful at showing and recovering tonight. Like they're usually pretty good at that, and they just did a bad job executing the show and recover whenever they did. Their zone wasn't good. Like Brady mentioned, their dribble penetration defense was just bad. It was just bad, period. So, yeah, like starting Davion and trying to set the tone there would absolutely make a difference. It's not, like I said, it's not going to solve everything, but I just think like for this Heat team, you need to lean into that part of your identity. That is your identity. And I think like you saw, they just got off to a bad start, and then they kind of came back there, and, they had you thinking, like Leif said, like they can be competitive, and they showed that. Like they were hanging around despite making a ton of mistakes. Like they also made a lot of their threes in the first half, and in the second half that went away, and then boom, like you're just in such a hole already against such a great team, and you're going to all these counters. And like Brady mentioned, like this is not a team that you can zone against. The only time I was okay with it was when Okoro was in there, because you can leave him open. He had a couple really bad misses, but he doesn't play that much, and I'm not sure how much he's going to play going forward after the game he had today. But just in general, like it's not like, they were just overmatched and, talent, like all that stuff is of course a part of it. Right. But it's like, I didn't like their game plan, and I thought they did a bad job executing the game plan. And it's so much more than just defense, because the turnovers were a huge problem on offense. Like, I just think they had so many breakdowns and mistakes on both ends of the floor. And that is not like something they can afford to do. Like you mentioned, 27 wins better. You cannot afford to do that. Their offense is extremely high power. They've got weapons and counters for everything you do. They've got to be on point, and they just were far from that tonight.
7 turnovers for Cleveland. That's it. I mean, that tells you everything. There's just not enough force on defense.
He had 8 in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, 7 turnovers for the entire game. And there were a couple of sequences, too, where they couldn't get to loose balls when it was like Bam, Wiggins, and Davion going for the ball. Like, they did not get to the 50-50s in the first half. It did feel like, to a certain degree, and look, Cleveland's just better. I mean, and I think we all acknowledge that. But it did feel to a certain degree like Spoelstra not conceding this game. I don't want to go that far. But it felt like one of those games where he's kind of seeing what they're going to do. I don't think that he rolled everything out today. But it may not matter anyway if Cleveland's going to space like that, going to shoot like that, and Miami can't get out to players because, again, they're being compromised because there's a strict game plan here. It is basically go after Tyler. That's what they're doing. It's obvious. There's no mystery to it whatsoever. They've identified that as the weak spot on the Heat's defense, and in the starting lineup it is.
Yeah, good job protecting him either.
No, they're not, and I get it. But at the same time, they're going to have to take some of the burden off him in that regard so that he can provide offense, because if he doesn't provide offense, then you're totally cooked because they don't have anywhere else to go with it. And again, I didn't think Wiggins was good enough tonight either. I want to get to Ware. Brady, let me pivot back to Wiggins on you first, though. We've seen him be ultra aggressive in some games, even when he's not efficient. And just him bending the defense helps. He was invisible today, I thought. I didn't think he made enough of an impact.
I told you before when we kind of talked about this series, like Wiggins is kind of the X factor in any game or series they play. And the reason I say that is because when he's aggressive, they're a different team. They're a different team when he's attacking downhill, when he's trying to, get to the paint, when he's playing with his back to the basket, when he's firing from 3. When he's doing all that stuff, they're a much better offense. They're a much better team. But when he goes through he actually came out the gate, I thought, a little aggressive. Like early in the game, he shot a bunch from 3, got some shots up. And then he just faded for a good portion of the rest of the game. You just didn't really even realize he was out there. There wasn't a lot of activity from him on the ball. That can't happen. I also said before the series, I almost want him playing in a similar way that they used Jimmy against Cleveland in past years, where they would mismatch on, find Garland, get him on the block, play from there, slow the game down, play in the half court, get to his push shot in the middle of the floor. You have to find ways with him, to me, to put the ball in his hands, like to force him to get the ball. Like you cannot let him fade throughout the game where he keeps running to the corner and slashing and do all that stuff. They need him from the wing or the top of the key, slashing, running pick and roll, finding opportunities. I just think Miami has an opportunity to counter what Cleveland's doing in some way by just saying, if you guys want to mismatch hunt all game, we could do the same thing. They did it at certain points, like the last possession of before halftime, Tyler got Garland on him and hit that tough three. Like that was all just create Garland, mismatch hunting. Like they have to do that stuff. And Wiggins is kind of the guy they have to push most to do that stuff. So they're going to need a more aggressive Wiggins in the series if they want to be competitive. They just are. Davion's been so good as a playmaker on the ball, driving. He ends up with 18 points in this game. Like his aggressive is great, but I think they're going to have to give some of his usage to Wiggins in those lineups because they just need it. They need him to be aggressive.
All right, let's pivot over to Ware, Greg. I thought he'd have to play more in this series because going with the two bigs. But also, Cleveland's shown a willingness to not always play the two bigs together. They're going to go with a bunch of different lineups. There's a lot of combinations they can use. I think that probably mitigates the use of Ware in some respect. But this was the first game in a while where I was like, well, the effort's not there. And I don't know if he was tired. I'm not sure. We talked about that all the way back to Summer League when he played a ton of games. But I've thought even when he's made mistakes that the effort has been better than expected. And today he was just getting beat for everything. I don't care about the offense. I'm just saying that they finished possessions in the Atlanta game. They cleaned it up, the rebounding, the Chicago game, the Atlanta game. They were not finishing possessions, and I thought he had a lot to do with it tonight. I don't how long. Where's the hook going to be for him in these games if he doesn't perform well?
I mean, you saw Spo in this game settle into Haywood Highsmith a lot more than we did with Ware next to Bam up front. It's unfortunate because this is like the perfect matchup when you just think about the lineups. I think that they'll stick with Ware for the next game, but it's going to be a quick hook. I think Burks also, and it was kind of like that tonight. It has a quick hook as well. The other thing with Ware is that like part of the benefit of having him on the back line of the defense and letting Bam roam more is that if you do get beat, if Tyler gets beat, if they're picking on him, you have a last line of defense. And that just didn't manifest itself today. The rebounding wasn't there. Jared Allen was just getting to the ball faster. I don't know if that's playoff jitters, if it's just like, the first playoff game, he's getting acclimated to that, but his only made field goal, I think was like a putback dunk or something like that around the rim. So like the vertical stuff where he's getting alley-oops from guys off the pick and roll, none of that got going. I think he continues to start, but this is a series that very quickly, and I think you're onto something in that they don't stick with the two big lineups for the entire game. Highsmith is going to get a look. I think eventually they could even look to Nico. That's maybe a conversation for when they're back in Miami, but it's going to be interesting to see where they go. But I think that Ware will be given a shot in game 2 to redeem himself.
All right, let's get to play of the night, but I want to talk more about the Nico thing going forward. So remind me since I'm old, but let's do the play of the night.
And now it's time for the X-Ray of the Play of the Day, brought to us by our friends over at Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services. Nelson and his team will bring the X-ray equipment and the staffing to you if you work in a hospital or a medical office. Get a consultation today at c-armandstaffing.com or give them a call at 561-891-9620. Their fleet of trucks at your service. Again, it's Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services, 561-891-9620. And now, the X-Ray of the Play of the Day.
Alex, what you got?
Oh, God. The toughest of questions. Honestly, I'm not ready for that.
All right, so which Ty Jerome shot are we going for? It's pretty much where we're at, right? I mean, look,
why are you making me do this?
Because we have to do it. We're contractually obligated.
We have
do
to
it.
talk
And
about
it's-
Ty Jerome. We have to. No, man. Like honestly,
we
it's
do.
just tough to talk to not. It's tough to talk about. Excuse me. Him without getting into the stuff that I kind of was thinking about for defending the house and stuff that we were already talking. At least we were already talking about with like their defense there. It's just so he's a good player, man. Like he's a 6th man of the year candidate for a reason. You know, like they allowed so many good shots. And I think the Cavs just really started feeling themselves, man. Like that is one of the best offenses in the league. They're absolutely elite on offense, and they're a very good defense as well. But just in general, their offense is so high powered. They've got shooters all over the floor. They've got 2 dynamic creators. They've got 2 bigs who can do stuff on offense. And you know what I mean? Like know how to make the proper reads and can play in different ways, know how to play with each other. Like I just think they've got so much going on. And the Heat need to be absolutely on point, and they just weren't, man. Like I don't understand. Again, like going back to conceding switches with Herro and Duncan, just allowing them to get attacked. You know, the help was off, the rotations were off. I didn't think they were particularly good. Like it wasn't like they were good in man or they were good in zone. I didn't think they were good in either. I thought Haywood and Davion both had like several breakdowns on defense. Haywood was more in the first half, and not just breakdowns, more just like Donovan cooking him one-on-one, like making amazing plays. So it's not like he was just leaving him open or anything, but just in general, like that's what he's there for. So it's tough when you see Haywood getting cooked. Davion did a good job overall, but had like a couple plays there with Tyler where like it seemed like one of them thought they were going to show and recover. The other one thought it was going to be a switch, and it was just like miscommunications. Like you cannot, you cannot afford to have that stuff. Right in this game. Ty Jerome, man, like it's such a luxury to have Garland and Mitchell, and then like one of them can go to the bench and you can play the other who's already there along with Ty Jerome, and you're set. Like on offense, you're set. And like I mentioned, they've got other shooters and guys who are like great play finishers. Like you can't leave Merrill open, you can't leave Max Strus open, right? Like they've got Jerome shoots it super deep on and off ball, like. They stretch you out while also having so many threats around the league and generating so many good looks. They're an inside-out team, and they're great at both of it. So I just think, like, if the Heat are absolutely on their job on defense to start this game, they're cooked. They're absolutely cooked.
I think this is the play of the night. It must be something I did. This is what Ethan wanted. LOL, blame Ethan for everything. He's the reason they won 2 play-in games. I apologize for them losing the pick and setting them back several years. It's one of those nights. Though there's tweets out here. Not only do we beat you tonight, we took LeBron back from you. That's coming in from Cleveland. Greg, let's talk about the Jovic thing. He got off the bench. I don't know what the point of that was. He got off the bench at the very end, I guess, just so he could touch the court.
Yeah.
He hasn't
now
played
he has
in
to
weeks.
take a shower.
Right. I mean, he only played Kyle Anderson 6 minutes. Kyle Anderson's been great, but he didn't stick with him tonight.
I think he's going to get cut out of the rotation.
So it seems like the opportunity is there now, right, to play Jovic.
Yep.
So if they play Jovic, why not start Davion?
I think you're onto something. I think that's probably the adjustment, and the Heat have to, the one advantage the Heat have.
This is the upset of the night. Greg said,
right? I was going to say, what does it mean this time?
Look at that. Anyway, Brady, Greg will come back to it. He's frozen in time. Brady, do you do it now? You start Davion, you put Jovic in the rotation with Highsmith and Robinson off the bench?
Yeah, I think what Greg was heading toward anyway was just the fact I think Davion and Jovic, I think those moves are linked. I think that if one of those moves are made, you have to do the other one. I've been saying before, I think Davion should start. I think it makes sense for the matchups. Now, I will say the one flip side to that, making that move, is that you're still going to see Tyler get hunted. It doesn't really matter if you add an extra defender to that lineup. There's still going to be moments there. But you put up more stronger defenders around it to make up for it, the hedge and recover, all of that. But if you do that, Jovic off the bench, I thought one of the areas that they were lacking in some parts of this game was like they didn't have that extra ball handler, and they just need that to kind of push the pace of Cleveland in those certain moments. And I thought Jovic has the ability to do that. Like I said the other day, Kyle Anderson was able to replicate some of the things. He's not a perimeter playmaker. He's a guy you put in the mid post. He's a guy that can play make in the paint. He's a different type of playmaker and just trigger for this offense they kind of need the Jovic trigger in this matchup. Now, the issue is, in a perfect world, if you had a healthy Jovic, you'd be playing him yesterday. Like, you would be 100% playing him in the rotation. We would be debating how much he's going to play in these games. I just don't know. The issue is you're just throwing him out there in the fire because we don't know what he's going to look like. I mean, I think he shot that 1-3 in the corner in his first, and I'm not judging based off that. I think he airballed that 3. Like, you don't know what it could look like, is my point. So I think they're going to get to a point here where they do try it, because I think they need to. I think they need what he provides. They need to just try and see if they have a spark in that area. But we could see, a short leash to see what they have there. But at this point, if you get to if you said it earlier, I mean, I don't think Spo was ever going to, as much as we talked about this move, ever make that change on game 1. He's just never been something he's done. Like, it's go see what you have, and then that could be your first adjustment you could get to down the line, game 2 or 3. Like, it's always the next move, prepare for your adjustment. And it feels like the clear lineup adjustment are those 2 pieces in the rotation.
All right, let's get to defending the house. We've got two more days to analyze this.
And now it's time for our Defending the House segment, sponsored by our friends over at The Real Estate Shop. You can find them at realestateshopfl.com. That's with 2 P's and an E, realestateshopfl.com, or at the Fort Lauderdale Realtor on Instagram. This is Javier Iglesias and Amanda Martin. They help buyers and sellers in real estate. They're nimble and protective of their clients. They service the entire Tri-County area. That's Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties with a proven on-market strategy. The Real Estate Shop sellers earn the most money in the shortest time frame because Amanda and Javier have a deep understanding of the local market. So check them out. Again, it's at the Fort Lauderdale Realtor on Instagram, realestateshopfl.com, or give them a call at 954-268-9812. And now, who defended the house?
I know how Alex feels about this because he's covered most of this on their defense today in general. I guess as we look at Cleveland going forward, I'll let any of you guys jump in on this. Again, their bigs did not really do a lot today, other than the boards early with what Allen was able to do. Oh, Alex, okay, what? I mean, because if they start overplaying the guards, I mean, this is the problem when you're playing a team that's deep, that's got good players everywhere. Is they start overplaying the guards, then I kind of feel like we're going to get a Mobley game. I don't think you get a big Allen scoring game, but you get a Mobley game here. Would you change the strategy in terms of what the emphasis is here defensively? I think Alex is on mute too. Brady, you're the only one off the hook tonight. Okay, Brady, go ahead. Would you change anything? No, that's it. Brady, go ahead.
I mean, I think other than the lineup, would you change anything majorly? I mean, nothing really matters if you don't contain. Like, there's almost so much you could do schematically. I think the biggest thing they have to do, it's not really with the bigs. I mean, they did a couple of switches with Kel'el and Bam, and I think they could live with a couple of those, like being able to kind of switch a lot of those actions inside. That didn't really give them a lot of problems. But I do think they're going to have to just build kind of that back layer around the free throw line and the nail to kind of just help out on these first initial drives when they're getting past that initial defender, whether it was Tyler, whether it was Burks, as Alex said, whether it was Haywood or Davion. Like, they had their moments too where they were getting blown past. But as we were talking about before, there's not really that guy you can help off of. Like, what are they going to help off of? Strus and Merrill on the weak side so they could layer up at the free throw line on a Donovan drive, and that's what makes Cleveland so tough. So those are the decisions they're going to have to make. I'd almost continue to force Cleveland into similar shots they took tonight. Maybe you don't get as many fouls, keep forcing them into those floaters that Ty Jerome and Donovan, these others were taking, than to just give them wide open threes the entire game. Because honestly, the biggest switches in the game to me weren't those floaters and drives by Donovan and Ty Jerome. Like, they were able to kind of counter a lot of those in the midst of the game. The big swings were those threes when they went zone and Ty Jerome hit the three, or when they just had those moments where they gave up wide open looks from three. Like, those are the ones that hurt to me. So they just have to be better. I mean, you talked about Kel'el earlier. I thought Kel'el was just kind of, lagging around the rim. Like, I didn't think he seemed like he was in the game fully, like in the playoff mentality of like, there was just some loose balls that were flying by and stuff. Like, if they have to have some defensive intensity like they had in the play-in, because I just didn't see it in this game. So that strikes me more than specific coverages and scheme.
All right,
They've got a lot to work on in the film room. That's the good part about this.
more
to work on in the film room. That's the good part about this.
No, we do. Even we do internally. We got to do our own self scouting to get through a show. All right, we're at 30 minutes. We appreciate everybody for joining us. We'll have more over the next couple of days. My overall thought is this: we know Cleveland is better. 64 wins don't lie. Whether or not they win the championship doesn't mean that they're not a strong team. Obviously, that has pieces everywhere. They've done a great job. I give Kobe Altman a lot of credit for filling in some of these guys like Merrill, like Dean Wade. He didn't play a lot tonight. Acquiring Hunter. The Ty Jerome pickup, for people who are asking, I mean, he came out of school in 2019. I mean, the Heat have liked him. Greg, we've talked about that. They've liked him for a while, but they've developed him in Cleveland. So the Heat developed players. He's developed players. He's a free agent after this season. Probably won't have another game like this, but you knew he was capable of this, particularly against Miami. My overall thought on this, though, is this series, and I know people are upset about the draft pick, but this series is going to give you a pretty good indication of how far away you are, I think. And I think that if the Heat were not aware of it, we talked, Greg, you and I did on the episode leading up to this that we did about kind of using the Cavs as a bit of a model here for how to get your own program where you want it to be. The Cavs picked higher than the Heat have picked during these situations to get guys like Garland, like Mobley, etc. They added Allen in a trade a while back. Obviously, Mitchell, they traded all the draft picks and marketing. But I think this will give you an indication of how many holes you have on the roster. Because I think what we're seeing is, the Heat have a good player here and they got a good player there, but it's never like it is with Cleveland where everybody on the floor can hurt you at all times. And I just think that ability for them all to be live is something Miami needs to create with its own roster.
There's not a trust 7, trust 8 kind of situation here in Miami right now.
No, it's not. I mean, really, he trusts 4, I think. So Wiggins has to be better in game 2. Ware has to be better in game 2.
Stop giving them the ball.
Don't give them the ball with turnovers. Try to turn them over, because turning them over
Stop
7
giving
times
up
is
easy
not
buckets in the paint.
Is not going to cut it. And I would play Jovic at this point. At least learn something about him now in this series, because you didn't learn anything about Jaime. Because
he was one of their better players, just frankly.
Right. He's one of their 5 or 6 best players if he's healthy, and he should be out there in a series like this. So we'll see if we see him in game 2. All right. Thanks to everybody for joining. Thanks to Greg, Alex, Brady, also our sponsor, c-sharmanstaffing.com, real estate shop, fl.com, insurancebythenet.com. Episodes over the next couple of days. Also, Adele and I will do a draft depth for those of you who are still focused on that. Go watch Golden State right now. We'll let you go.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.